the ECC, and we have council members Pridemore and Stein with us. Dwayne, if you could introduce yourself, your colleagues, and tell us what's on your mind.
All right. My name's Dwayne Phillips, and I'm the director of the Emergency Communications Center, otherwise known as the ECC. I've got Angie Milliken here. She's the assistant director over operations, and my finance officer, Dwayne Vance. Behind me, Michelle Peterson, the assistant director over support, and then Mark Lynham is the executive secretary or finance director for the Emergency Communications District Board. So I just wanted to let you know that, again, the emergency communications last year in 2014, processed over 1.5 million telephone calls, and over 360,000 of those calls were 911 calls, or an average about 1,000 calls per day. Of the 1 million incoming calls in 2014, there were only 28 complaints filed, and only 19 of those were founded. So far this year, we only have 2 complaints. Emergency communications dispatchers also processed 1.5 million entries into the computer-aided dispatch system, or the CAD system. And ECC was reaccredited for the 3rd time with the Commission on Accreditation for Law Enforcement Agencies, otherwise known as CALEA. And I want to point out that Nashville is still one of the very few cities in the country that has the TRIARC award, meaning CALEA has accredited the police department, the training academy, and the communications center. As you well know, 97% of our budget, the ECC budget, is employees and salaries and benefits. The remaining 3% is all other and internal service fees, which we have no control over. And if we had the 3% reduction that we were requested to exercise in, that would cost the ECC 8 employees. We'd have to lay off 8 employees to reach that 3% reduction. Over the past couple of years, the police department, as you well know, has added 2 police precincts that require dispatchers for 24/7. ECC did not receive enough FTEs or enough personnel to fully man those positions, so actually what we have to do is take call takers off the phones to dispatch. So what's happened is our average answer time on our 911 calls and our abandonment rate have both increased. So this year we are asking for 6 additional FTEs to be added to our budget. The original plan when the emergency communications was separated from the police department and the fire department was to have all employees cross-trained. Cross-trained mean be call takers, police dispatchers, and fire dispatchers. At the present time, we are short fire dispatchers. We have 28 employees that are eligible to take that training if it's allowed, and the last fire dispatch class we had was in June of 2013. I also want to make note here that our trainers are fire dispatch trained. So when we have training classes going through the call taking training or the police dispatch training, those fire dispatch trained people are pulled to do the training for our employees. One other thing, last year we asked for special event monies of $55,400. We were given $25,000. I want to point out by February we have spent $56,800, close to what we had asked for, and we still have the CMAs coming up and the Music City Marathon coming up. So that
rumors about the Rolling Stones coming.
There is a rumor about that.
Who? You heard of that? Big English.
So we're going to be asking for $52,200 to be added to that special event fund for the new process. And this last thing is not ours, but we want to go on record supporting general services and building a new public safety answering point out there on the Peterbilt complex. we've gone over this before, that would allow more room. We would do away with the Harding place, which would mean the ECD board would save money on rent out there. It's too small and has windows, which is a problem during storms. And the present location, the Compton location, would become the backup site, which would also give OEM and the radio shop a little more room if we moved out and head into the new building. And it would all be on one floor according to the design.
Okay. Well, can you talk a little bit about, beyond that, is there any other facility needs improvements that you have?
Well, as you found out when we had the flood, and we've discussed before, it would be ideal if the communications center was on one floor. What happens is we have victims calling in and our answering call takers are upstairs, and they're on the phone, and they're keeping the victim on the phone, trying to get better directions or giving them pre-arrival instructions. When the dispatchers are downstairs sending the public safety people, police and fire, and if they need additional information, they can't call upstairs because their call takers are already on the phone with the victims. So if they were on one floor, they could holler at each other, use the old-fashioned way.
How has the Viper program work for y'all?
The Viper telephone system, very new.
You can probably describe what it is. So for the
Okay,
public.
it's a more up-to-date digital telephone system. The state ECD board is having a statewide NG 911 backbone being put in.
Okay, you got to explain what that is.
Well, I was going to.
Okay.
Basically, everything's going digital, and most people think of digital, they think of text to 911 or sending photographs. Once the state gets everything in place and all the telephone companies hook into it, it's up to them to hook into it and change their technology to fit the state technology. We are ready to start receiving those things. So the Viper system was the big step, the most expensive part of putting in a new phone system. It also helps when the new phone system comes in, we should be able to locate you if you have a new cell phone, a phase 2 cell phone. Right now, we can locate you in a field about the size of a football field. When the new system is completely implemented, which is supposed to be before the end of this year, we can narrow that down to 5 meters, so less than the size of this room, if you have a new phone and if your company has hooked into the system. We'll be able to hook onto you. Now, that should help a lot in locating people on cell phones, and I know my councilman was back here earlier. I assume he's still behind me, but there's a lot of problem in Goulitsville where the cell phone companies hit a tower that's in Hendersonville or Sumner County, and the call goes to Sumner County instead of Davidson County, and there was some confusion about that. That will no longer happen when this new system comes on. If it did happen, we would have a better transfer system also. So all the information we get from you, for instance, your address and phone numbers and callback numbers, all that would be able to transfer when we transfer the call. Presently, it can't be done now.
Okay. You mentioned the need for additional funds around special events. Tell me how special events impact you.
Okay, the police department and sometimes the fire department, especially at the big events, have a command post set up. For instance, let's use 4th of July. They'll have command posts set up downtown. They need dispatchers in those command posts. That helps them keep up with their records there, and they answer the calls in that area so that the regular calls coming from dispatch are still normal calls.
Okay.
Same thing with CMA and
Big events.
and big events.
Right. How's the overtime issue? When you agreed to come back to do this job, overtime was a big people getting too much overtime was the issue, right?
Well, they've had mandatory overtime.
Right.
And we've managed to do away with mandatory overtime. We haven't had that since I've been here. We've also stayed within our overtime budget every year since I've been here. But a lot of that overtime has to be transferred to these special events. Prior to last year, we didn't have any money for special events, so all the special events were covered in the overtime budget. And we try to let as many employees off as we possibly can to keep the morale off. If they have, we're short of people, but we have to have so many people on the phone every day, depending on what shift it is. And we let as many people off as we can, but as we run short of people, we have to ask for overtime for working. So we can only let 2 people off on Thursdays. Well, maybe if the overtime's not too bad, we can let 3 people off, and they can actually use some of their vacation time, and we cover it with overtime.
Yep.
It would help us greatly on the overtime if we get these 6 additional people.
Okay. Rich, you have anything?
Yes, sir.
Greg?
Nothing?
Well, let me thank you all for your hard work, and I probably spent more time in your facility as a visitor than any other department. I think it's probably easy for me to say. And you've always been very kind to me.
I think you was really there for the EOC, but I was more than willing to offer you my office, especially when the flood was there and you needed a place to change clothes and have your conference calls.
And we spent a good deal of time with you all just recently during the ice and snowstorms, and you all do wonderful work, and I appreciate it. And Dwayne, I appreciate you coming into a situation that had a lot of difficulties and changing your retirement plans and serving your city in a way that I think is exemplary. So this is our last time to do this together, and I want to
I only
acknowledge.
have 168 days, but I'm not really counting.
We're living together.
We have.
We're living together. But thank you, and thanks to all your team for their great attitude and their
I
hard
couldn't
work.
do it without the help of the employees, and they're all hard-working employees and very dedicated to the city.
Yes.
It's a hard job.
Thank you.
Very stressful.
Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.